In individual psychology, the theory of personality and psychotherapy created by Alfred Adler that represents an optimistic view of people while resting heavily on the notion of social interest. So what is social interest? So it is a feeling of oneness with all of humankind. So let us now go to the biography of Alfred Adler. So he was born in 1870 near Vienna, and his mother was a homemaker. He had 6 siblings and a middle-class Jewish grain merchant father. So Adler was sickly at the age of 5, and nearly died of pneumonia, and this experience of him, along with the death of his younger brother, motivated him to become a physician. He had an older brother, Sigmund, who was much healthier than him, and many of Adler's memory were concerned with the unhappy competition between him and his brother. So, yun sa kanya, it's his insecurity that hindi siya healthy growing up, and insecure siya sa brother niya, which is very healthy. Yun nga, and Adler was a second-born child, and like many second-born child, he continued the rivalry with his brother into middle age. So in 1895, Adler got his medical degree on University of Vienna Medical School, and in 1902, Sigmund Freud invites Adler to join Wednesday Psychological Society, later renamed to Vienna Psychoanalytic Society. In 1907, Adler published a study of organ inferiority and its psychical compensation. But in 1911, Adler was expelled in Vienna Psychoanalytic Society. But in the same year, he founded Society for Individual Psychology. So the conflict between him and Freud started na. So that's why he was expelled on the society. And in 1937, he died on May 28 in the Aberdeen, Scotland. Adler never considered Freud to be his mentor, and they had many professional and personal disagreements. Adler believed that psychoanalysis should be much broader than Freud's view of infantile sexuality, and expressed his opposition to the strong sexual prerogatives of psychoanalysis, and insisted that the drive for superiority was more basic motive than sexuality. Now let's go to the major tenets of Adlerian theory or individual psychology. The first is striving for superiority or success. So just like Freud with aggression and sex, Adler reduced all motivation to a single drive, striving for superiority or success. Everyone begins with life with physical deficiency that activate feeling of inferiority, which motivate people to strive either for superiority or success. Psychologically healthy individuals strive for the success of all humanities, whereas psychologically unhealthy individuals strive for the superiority of themselves. So regardless of motivation for striving, personal or humanity, each individual is guided by a final goal. The striving force for success or superiority exists as a potential at birth and must be developed. Each person must actualize this potential in his or her own manner. So people strive for superiority or success as a means of compensating for feelings of inferiority. Physical deficiencies at birth ignite feelings of inferiority because of people, by nature, possesses an intimate tendency towards completion of wholeness. The striving force itself is innate, but its nature and directions are both due to feelings and inferiority and the goal of superiority. We have an innate movement toward perfection. So feelings of inferiority or deficiency would not result unless people had an innate tendency towards completion and perfection. The final goal. So according to Adler, people strive toward a final goal of either personal superiority of a final goal of success for all humankind. In either case, the final goal is fictional and has no objective existence. Nevertheless, the final goal is very significant because it unifies one's personality and it renders all behavior comprehensible to us. So each person has the power to create a fictional goal that is constructed out of the raw materials of heredity and environment. So, however, heredity, and environment are just building blocks and either determine the final goal. The final goal is ultimately the product of one's creative power. A person's final goal reduces feelings of inferiority and points the person in the direction of either superiority or success. If children feel neglected or pampered, their goal remains largely unconscious. But if children receive love and security, they set a goal that is largely conscious and clearly understood. Psychologically secure children strive towards success in terms of social interests. Although the goal is never completely conscious, healthy individuals understand it and pursue it with high level of awareness. In creative power, people's ability to freely shape their behavior and create their own personality by the time children reach 4 to 5. Their creative power is developed in the point that they can set their final goal. So let us go to striving force as compensation. So people strive for superiority and success as a means of compensating for feelings of inferiority. Physical deficiencies at birth ignite feelings of inferiority because people, by nature, possesses an innate tendency towards completion or wholeness. Now, the striving force is itself innate, but its nature and directions are both due to feelings of inferiority and goal of superiority. We have an innate movement toward perfection, so feelings of inferiority or deficiency would not result unless people had innate tendency towards completion and perfection. The striving for personal superiority, where some people arrive at personal superiority, which is their final goal, through little or no concerning for others. Their strivings are motivated largely by exaggerated feelings of personal inferiority or the presence of an inferiority complex. In striving for success, psychologically healthy people are motivated by social interests and will strive for success of all humankind. So people who strive for success still maintain a sense of self, but they see daily problems from the view of society's development. Let us go to the next tenet, and that is subjective perfection. In subjective perfection, we have the fictionalism. So let us first tackle fictionalism. It is a belief of expectation of the future that serves to motivate our present behavior. The truthfulness of a fiction does not matter because a person acts as if it were true. So, in subjective perception, people's subjective perception shape their behavior and personality. People strive for superiority or success to compensate for feelings of inferiority, but the manner in which they strive is not shaped by reality, but their subjective perfection of reality or expectation about the future. So, our most important fiction is the goal of superiority or success, and the goal has no material existence, but people behave as if it were true and influences them. A strong emphasis on fiction is consistent with a strong theological view of motivation. People behave in terms of purpose or aim as opposed to behave in accordance with the past experiences. The third tenet, unity and self-consistency of personality. So as Adler said, personality is unified and self-consistent. Each person is unique and indivisible, and inconsistent behavior does not exist, though feelings and actions are all directed toward a single final goal. When people behave erratically, it is probably unconscious attempts to confuse and subordinate other people. So, ways the entire person cooperates with unity and self-consistency are two. One, organ dialect, and second, conscious and unconscious. An organ dialect, the whole person strives in self-consistent fashion towards a single goal and all separate actions and functions can be understood only as parts of the goal. The subordinates in other parts of the body affects the entire person. So a deficient organ expresses the direction of the individual's goal. So this is the organ dialect. The body's organs disclose an individual personality more clear than their words. In conscious and unconscious, a second way, unified personality is made through the harmony between conscious and unconscious action. So Adler believed that the unconscious is part of the goal that is either clearly formulated nor completely understood by the individual. So he saw the conscious and unconscious as cooperating parts of the same unified system. So conscious thoughts are those that are understood and regarded by the individual as helpful in their striving, while unconscious thoughts are just those that are not helpful. Now let us go to the fourth tenet, which is the social interest. So whether people develop a healthy or unhealthy style of life depends on the degree of social interest they develop in childhood. The value of all human activity must be seen from the viewpoint of social interest. It manifests itself as cooperation with others for social advancement, rather than personal gain. So social interest is a natural condition of the human species and is necessary for survival. So we must cooperate and depend on each other. Tenet 5. Style of life. Self-consistent personality structure develops into a style of life, a flavor of one's life that includes the person's final goal, self-concept, feelings for others, and their creative power. A person's lifestyle of life is fairly well established by the age of 4 or 5. After this time, all of the actions revolve around a unified style of life. Although the final goal is singular, the style of life is a psychologically healthy person can be flexible and diverse. So psychologically unhealthy individuals have more rigid and inflexible style of life and have an inability to find new ways to react to their environment. So people with healthy, socially useful styles of life express their social interests through actions like cooperation, courage, willingness to make contributions to welfare of another. Let us go to creative power, where the style of life is molded by people's creative power. Although heredity and environment provide the building blocks of one's final goal and style of life, each person is empowered to create his or her own style of life. Ultimately, people are responsible for who they are and how they behave, and creative power places us in control of our own lives, where we are creative beings who react to our environment but also act on it and cause it to react on us. In abnormal development, there are external factors and maladjustment. So first is the exaggerated physical deficiencies. Exaggerated physical deficiencies alone are not enough to lead us to maladjustment, but must be accompanied by exaggerated feelings of inferiority. Exaggerated feelings of inferiority may be encouraged by an overly defective body, but they are still the production of one's own creative power. They tend to be overly concerned with themselves, and it feels as if other people are their enemies and prosecute them. Next is the pampered style of life. A pampered style of life lies at the heart of the most neurosis, weak social interests, and strong desires to perpetuate their own pampered, parasitic relationship with one of their parents. They see the world in a private vision and they are entitled. The third is the neglected style of life, where children who feel unloved are likely to develop a neglected style of life, have a little confidence in themselves, and tend to overestimate difficulties connected with the major life problems. So they are distrustful of the others and unable to cooperate to the common welfare. Now let us go to safeguarding tendencies. Adler believed that the people created patterns of behavior to protect their exaggerated sense of self-esteem from public disgrace. So these safeguarding tendencies allows people to hide their inflated self-image and maintain their current style of life. So, safeguarding tendencies are largely conscious and shield a person's fragile self esteem from public. So, this stems to excuses, aggression, and withdrawal. So, safeguarding tendencies are common to everyone, but when they become overly rigid, they lead to self defeating behaviors. Let us go to excuses. So, one of the first type of safeguarding tendencies, and it's the most common. So, typically expressed as the yes but format. People state that they would like to do something but follow it with an excuse to protect one's weak but artificially inflated self worth. So, they deceive people into believing that they are more superior than they really are. The next is aggression. Common safeguarding tendencies that people use to safeguard the exaggerated superiority complex. So that is to protect their fragile self-esteem. So safeguarding though aggression can take the form of depreciation, accusation, or self-accusation. So Adler had this hypothesis on birth order. So firstborn children are likely to have intensified feelings of power and superiority, high anxiety, and overprotective tendencies. We all know that. Family constellation is the birth order, gender of siblings, and age spread between them. So Adler did not believe that people's perception of reality were important in shaping their personality than reality itself. He did believe that family constellation had an influence on personality. In early recollection, in order to gain understanding of patients' personality, Adler would ask people to reveal their early recollections because recalled memories do not have a causal effect on behavior, but are actually reconstructed to be consistent with a theme or pattern that runs through the person's life. So, early recollections are always consistent with people's current style of life, thus gives clues about the person's current style of life. And in dreams, Adler believed that dreams provide clues for solving future problems. But the dreamer usually does not want to solve these problems in a productive manner. Most dreams are self-deceptive and must be interpreted by another individual. And next is psychotherapy. The purpose of Adlerian psychotherapy is to enhance courage, lessen feelings of inferiority, and grow social interest. This task is not easy because patients struggle to hold onto their current styles of life. So, though the use of humor and warmth, Adler tried to increase courage and social interest. A warm, nurturing relationship with the therapist grows social interest, and then this needs to be broadened to other relationships and the rest of the humanity. In dreams, Adler believed that dreams provide clues for solving future problems. But the dreamer usually does not want to solve these problems in a productive manner. Most dreams are self-deceptive and must be interpreted by another individual. Now let's go to the critic of Adler. So he produced many concepts that do not easily lend themselves to verification or falsification because his terms are not operationalized and many are imaginary constructs not observable and measurable. Adler believed that the current style of life shapes early recollection, but it could be the other way around, where early recollection shapes the style of life. So, because there is no way to verify this, Adler rates low on falsifiability. Adler rates above an average on ability to generate research, rates high on ability to organize knowledge, which makes sense of what we already know about his personality. So high on ability to guide action, that provides guidelines to solve problems, how to best treat someone. So rates low on internal consistency because terms are not operationally defined, average on parsimony. And we have Adler's concept of humanity, which there are six. First is the high on optimism, low on pessimism, high on free choice, low on determinism, and in between conscious and unconscious influence on behavior, high etiology and low on casualty, high on uniqueness and low on sameness, and high on social factors and low on biological factors. So that would be all. Thank you so much for listening to my report. I hope you have learned a lot of things in my discussion, and I just based it on Sir's discussion also. So thank you all so much.